Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my birth experience, birth story, whatever you want to call it. I've been meaning to film this video for months. My baby is officially 5 months. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my experience, tell you guys what my birthing affirmations were, tell you guys my birth plan, and how I prepped for labor and delivery. My baby just moved. Is she up? I literally meant to film this when she was like still a newborn, but I never got back to it. Yeah, you guys, so this is the video that we're filming today. And yeah, if you guys are interested in any of those topics I just mentioned, stay tuned. If you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe, turn on your post notifications so you guys can be notified every time I upload a video. And yeah, let's get into it. This video is gonna be me kind of just telling you guys my experience about going into labor. So, and it's gonna start from the day before. So the day before I went into labor, it was April 9th on a Sunday. So Sundays are days that my man is typically home. That's the main day of the week that I know for sure he's gonna be home. So on that day, we usually spend time together, make breakfast. I sometimes do his hair. We sometimes do yard work, whatever we need to get done. So on this particular Sunday, I was asking him to mow the lawn for the longest because I kept saying, I was like, the baby could come at any moment. You need to mow the lawn. Why that's important, I don't know. But when you're nesting, when you're in that stage about to give birth, you just want everything to be ready, like the baby's gonna care. Anyways, I asked him to mow the lawn. He decided, okay, I'm gonna mow the lawn today. And since he was out there mowing the lawn and I was a little just in a nesting mood, I went outside and I started pulling weeds, and I'll insert a picture of me cutting some of the tree leaves off. He just decided to take a picture of me, and I'm so glad he did because that's the last picture, or one of the last pictures of me pregnant, because she did come a week early. So that same day I decided I needed to do his hair because he has a lot of hair and I usually braid his hair on Sundays. Like every couple of weeks on a Sunday I do his hair. So I was like, I really need to get your hair done because I can go into labor at any minute. Not that I was manifesting it, but I just knew like I could have went into labor at any minute at that point, especially because of how I was feeling. Like even though this is my first baby, I was feeling so much pelvic pressure, so much. I was constantly feeling like something just bearing down on my cervix. So I was like, I need to do your hair. So I ended up washing his hair, blow drying it, braiding his hair. I stayed up till 12 o'clock to do his hair that night. If you guys know, when you're in your third trimester, when it's like weeks or around the time that you're gonna give birth, it's hard to sleep. It's uncomfortable for most people. Some women don't have that experience, but I did. I was one of those women that was very uncomfortable at that point in pregnancy. So even though I finished his hair around 12 o'clock, I didn't actually lay down to go to sleep until around 1:15 in the morning. I was like looking everywhere for my eye covers. I put my eye covers on, finally got comfortable in my pregnancy pillow, ready to go to sleep. And it was like 1:15ish, like I said. And as I'm laying there, I was laying there for at least 5 minutes. I take a minute to go to sleep. Like I can't just lay down and fall asleep. So when I'm laying there, I felt like a gush. It didn't feel like a pop. It just felt like a gush, kind of like I peed myself. But I'm just like, there was no pee sensation. So I got up to go to the bathroom. I looked in the toilet because I was just like, maybe. It looked normal to me. So I was just like, oh, it's just some pee. I don't know what possessed me to, but I put on a pad because I had a bunch of like those bigger overnight pads ready for postpartum. So I put one of those pads on and I was just like, I'm gonna just lay back down. I'm gonna just go to sleep. I couldn't go back to sleep. Around 2:15 now, there was another gush and this one felt bigger. So I was just like, or like 30 minutes later. I don't feel like looking for it. I mean, I can look for it because I was taking notes on like what was going on so I could tell my midwife, because I didn't know I was supposed to call my midwife as soon as my water broke, but that's a whole nother story within itself. Let me see if I could find it. Okay, here we go. These are the notes I was writing down. I said, I think my water broke at 1:15ish on 4:10. I felt a gush of fluid while laying down at 1:15ish, and another gush, here we go, another gush around 1:40 a.m. and I start feeling mild cramping on and off. So that's what happened. And then I got another gush at 2:22 exactly in the morning. I was like, synchronicity. But at 2:22 in the morning, I had another gush. That one was like a pretty big gush. And then 15 minutes later at 2:37, I noticed a bit of pinkish reddish fluid in the toilet. That's when I was just like, okay, I think my water broke. But it wasn't just like a dramatic water breaking like you see in the movies. It was in increments. So I wasn't sure, but that's whenever I took a picture of what was in the toilet because I was just like, just in case I need this for reference for my midwife, I took a picture of it. So I messaged my midwife and I messaged my doula. I didn't call them, I messaged them. I didn't hear back from either one of them. So at this point, I was in labor. I wasn't sure if I was in labor, and I don't remember my midwife telling me, hey, if your water breaks, call me, which she said that's what she told me to do. And I believe her because I'll get to that point too, because there's a lot of things that just happened and changed. Well, actually, let's do a little quick pause because I don't want you guys to get too confused. So originally, my intention was, and this is something I planned or in my mind, I envisioned giving birth at a birthing center or at my home from years before I even knew I was pregnant. I watched so many different videos, so many different women having these supernatural birth experiences, and that's what I was envisioning for myself. So that was my initial plan, was to give birth at the birthing center. And up until I was 37 weeks, that was my plan. But when I was 37 weeks, I went to see my midwife up to my 37-week checkup appointment, and my blood pressure was like super high. Like, it was out of the parameters of an out of hospital birth, which if your blood pressure is, I believe it was something over 140. If it was higher than that, I think 90 over 140 or something high like that, but for sure over 140. If your blood pressure is higher than that, you cannot give birth out of hospital, because when you're in labor, majority of the time blood pressure gets higher. So that's why I wasn't able to give birth at the birthing center anymore. So that day she was just like, you need to go to the hospital right now, just so they can check everything, make sure you don't have any preeclampsia or anything like that. Just make sure you and baby are good. So she recommended this hospital that I ended up giving birth at. She recommended me to go there because they are really pro natural birth. They try to respect your birth plan and things like that. So she and a lot of other midwives in the DFW area recommend downtown Dallas Baylor Hospital to give birth at. So she recommended me to go there for this emergency situation. I ended up going there. She also told me I needed to eat just in case they needed to induce me. So make sure I ate something before I went. She told me to take my car seat and my hospital bag, if I had it ready, take it with me just in case. That put me in an immediate state of like anxiety, stress, sadness, because I was like, what do you mean? I'm having a natural birth at the birthing center. I didn't plan on giving birth at the hospital. So this just caused me to go into a deep sadness, but I didn't have the time to be sad because she was like, you need to go to the hospital right now. So me and my man, we were in two separate cars, because to meet me at my appointments, he would rush when he got off of work to meet me at the birthing center for my prenatal appointments. So we were in two separate cars, and I was just driving, crying, hyperventilating, like just stressed out, sweating and everything on the way home, because we needed to go home first, grab our things, and go to the hospital in the same car. So we ended up doing that. Long story short, we ended up at the hospital 37 weeks. They let me know that, I had gestational hypertension. It was not preeclampsia. That's what they diagnosed me with at that point. And whenever I ended up talking to my midwife afterwards, I let her know, but she still informed me that more than likely, because we ended up calling her a couple days later because we were just feeling really uneasy. I was feeling really sad. It caused me to honestly go into like this little mini sense of depression, because I was just so heartbroken. I felt so defeated. I really wanted a natural birth, and I have to give birth at a hospital. So after we talked to her and confirmed, yes, more than likely you are gonna have to give birth at a hospital, I was happy that we at least found that hospital, because the nurses and the energy and everything about the hospital was not what I'm used to when it comes to a hospital experience, because I've had a lot of interesting experiences at the hospital. Even while I was pregnant, I had a pregnancy scare, and I ended up rushing to the hospital that was linked to my original OBGYN, and I had a terrible experience. The OBGYN I was going to, terrible experience. I didn't feel like a human being. I felt like a number. Like, okay, another pregnant woman, check. I didn't feel heard. So going to this hospital, I felt heard. They asked me questions. They gave me the choice to put on the gown or not. Like, it wasn't like, you need to put this on. It was just like, do you want to put this gown on? I was like, do I have to? She said, no, you don't have to. And they still took care of me without that hospital gown on. I just felt like putting on the hospital gown was manifesting going into labor right then and there, making things more stressful and causing me to be more antsy. So I was like, no, I didn't even want to be there to begin with. I was just so frustrated. So yeah, gestational hypertension, back to day going into labor. So around 2:40, seeing the stuff in the toilet, like it was like a pinkish reddish kind of like discharge fluid thing going on. I believe it was my water breaking, and that was some of the mucus plug. I think that's what it was. When I talked to my midwife, I think she told me that that was the mucus plug. So with that being said, at that point, I should have been rushing to the hospital. I didn't know, because I was so caught up in the fact that, oh my gosh, I have to give birth at the hospital, that I was like, instead of focusing on what needs to be done once I go into labor, I was more so trying to get myself ready to give birth at a hospital instead. So I was like reading positive affirmations, I was journaling, I was meditating, I was like really just outweighing the pros and the cons of giving birth at a hospital, like looking at all the positive of giving birth at a hospital. The fact that they have everything that they need if there is some sort of emergency, like they have all the equipment and the modern technology that you need in case there is some sort of emergency. So I was like, okay, boom, there. This hospital specifically, they are pro natural birth. They thrive to have the lowest C-section rate. They let you labor naturally as far as moving around. They don't require, they don't say, hey, you need to stay on the bed. They let you flow, which that's what labor is. It's like a flowing thing, you know, especially if you're planning on doing it naturally. The easiest way to do it is through flowing through the emotions, through flowing through the feelings, and flowing through each wave of pain that you experience, you know? It allows you to have more of like a spiritual, peaceful experience over being fearful. There's so much I could talk about, but staying on track. So I was looking at the pros and the cons of giving birth at a hospital so I could feel safe, so I could feel like I was ready, so I could connect with my womb and my baby and really create this space of, it's safe for you to come. It's safe for you to be here. Mommy's ready. This is a safe space. Mommy's not afraid. This makes me emotional. So I had to manifest these positive feelings, you know, through reassuring myself and positive affirmations. So that's what I was doing in prep. Instead of focusing on what I needed to do when I went into labor, I was more so focused on prepping my mind to my new reality. Whenever you plan something and you, in your mind, you envision it to be a certain way and you find out it's not going to go that way, it can evoke this deep fear inside of your body, inside of your existence, inside of your mind. And the fear can create more problems. So therefore, that's what I was focused on. So I did not call my midwife or my doula. So around 3:30 now, this whole time from 2:37 to 3:30, I was just kind of like, okay, I think I'm really in labor. My man was asleep on the bed. I didn't even disturb him. I was just kind of going through my motions. I was getting on the floor and rolling around on my birth ball, getting on the bed, like rocking back and forth. Around 3:35, I was like, okay, I need to tell him, I think I'm in labor. It's getting real. Like these contractions are starting to get a little bit more strong. So I woke him up and I said, baby, I think it's time. He was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I think I'm in labor. He was like, what, really? Huh? I'm like, yeah, I think I'm in labor. And he was just like, oh shit. And he got out of bed, or he didn't get out the bed, but he was just like sitting up on the bed, just kind of staring at me, like pulled his eye covers off. I always call them eye covers, but you know, the eye sleep mask. He pulled them off and he was just staring like, oh, like fuck, okay, shit. You know, like, cause it's about to get real. So we were like, well, what's the next step? In my mind, I was just like, oh, I'm supposed to call her whenever my contractions are 3 minutes apart, I think, consistently and lasting for a minute long. We were so set on this 3 minutes apart, lasting for a minute long, that's what we were waiting for. So from whenever I woke him up to around like a few minutes before 9 o'clock, we were just laboring naturally at home. I had him using my phone to track my contractions to see how close they were getting on average. I think my battery's gonna die. I need to get my another battery. Let me just go do that now. Okay, we're back. But so yeah, I woke him up. We were tracking the contractions. A little bit before 9 o'clock, my doula called me and she started asking me questions like, when did my water break? How close are my contractions? Do I feel any pressure down there that feels kind of like a sharp lightning pain? I don't remember how close they were apart, but they were pretty close. And then what else? So she asked me about rectal pressure and I was like, yeah, it kind of feels like, it almost felt like I had to poo really bad, but it also felt like really a lot of pressure just like bearing down. So I said yes. So at that point, she told me to just continue to try to rest as much as possible, store my energy, because I was in active labor at this point. But a little bit after that, probably like 15 minutes, I think she didn't want to scare me, but like 15 minutes later, my midwife called me. She was like, hey, Ashley, this is what Juanita said, XYZ. She said, you're feeling rectal pressure. That is a sign that things are getting serious, so you need to go to the hospital right now. And because my water had broke, she also said that I'm at risk of infections and things like that because of how long ago my water broke and I was still home. So don't be like me. You know, I'm grateful for my experience, but based on now that I know better, I would call my midwife or whoever, my OBGYN, my doctor, whoever, ASAP if my water breaks in that way again. Anyway, so at that point, it was like 9 o'clock. My midwife told me check my blood pressure. My blood pressure was high, so she told me to go straight to the hospital. So I was just like, all right, cool. Because I waited so long to call her, she wasn't gonna be able to meet me at the hospital. It was just gonna be my doula that met me there. So then I ended up talking to my doula a little bit longer. My midwife was just like, I'm sorry, I know I keep going back and forth, doula, midwife, but midwife was just like, make sure you eat something, get everything ready, head to the hospital right now. Don't wait. We still didn't end up leaving the house for like another hour later because my man, I felt like he was lollygagging, but it's also because we're pretty chill, laid back people, even though this was a pretty serious situation, because I was already ready. While he was sleeping in the morning, I got my body ready. I was shaving and everything. I braided my hair back in 2 braids. I was too much in active labor, trying to be more in my body and in my mind, so I wasn't like freaking out, that I didn't even remember to pick up the camera until we got in the car and we were on the way. If you guys want to see that video, I'll link it somewhere for you guys, my labor and delivery vlog. So yeah, we're in the car, we get to the hospital. By the time we get to the hospital and they do my cervix check, I was already 5 centimeters dilated, which I was pretty proud of myself because I got to 5 centimeters dilated on my own naturally at home. So I felt pretty good about that. But the cervix check, whew, I hate the way those cervix checks feel. So really quickly, I'm gonna tell you guys my birthing affirmations and then read you guys my birth plan in just a second. But my birthing affirmations that I would pretty much recite daily, I printed them out too. I don't know why I printed them out thinking I was gonna be looking at this while I was in labor. No, I didn't. But I did kind of like have them in my mind already. But my birthing affirmations specifically, I'll hold this here so in case you want to take a screenshot, you can, to use these for your own labor and delivery to help you kind of prep for birth. Each contraction brings me closer to my baby. The pain cannot be stronger than me because it is me. I trust in my body and my baby knows exactly what to do. I can do this. I am strong. I am surrounded by love and support. My body was made to birth and I am built for this. And I recited these over and over again to where I was not afraid to give birth. Now, the last few weeks before I was getting ready to give birth, at that appointment when I knew that I had to give birth at a hospital, that did scare me. It did strike a little bit of fear in me, but I knew that they were pro natural birth and they strive to have the lowest C-section rate, so that made me feel a little bit better. And on top of all the other things that I was reminding myself that at the end of the day, hospitals been doing this for years. Most people give birth in a hospital and they have the equipment they need to keep me and baby safe. So we got to the hospital, 5 centimeters dilated. We were probably in triage for about maybe like an hour, if so. But once we got to the hospital, I got real emotional. I was just like, it was so funny because I walked in and the lady that was right there, she was just like, "Are you in labor?" I was just like, "Yeah." She was like, "Okay, go this way." They were all so sweet, so accommodating, so like loving and understanding, because at the end of the day, they do this. This is what they do. After the cervix check, they let me know I was 5 centimeters dilated. When I walked out of the little cervix examination room, my doula was there, and when I seen her, I literally just hugged her and I started crying. I was just so happy that she was there, because for those of you guys that are new, I know I say this all the time and I always like reiterate, my mom passed away, but it's like a lot of who I am, the way that I move, the way that I think, my life was completely changed when my mom passed away. So because my mom passed away and I knew that I was not going to be able to have that support and that love, and I don't even know if I would have wanted her in the room, honestly, because my mom was a little bit like stressful. That's the best word I could use. But support wise, love wise, reassurance wise, just my mom was an amazing mother, but she did have some little anxious ways about her that I don't know if I would have physically wanted her in the room with me, but maybe I would have. Like, my mom, she was so amazing. But anyway, as soon as I seen my doula, I started crying because I was just so happy to see her. I only had met my doula in person once before I actually went into labor, but when I met her, I just knew, yes, I'm in good hands. She was so sweet, so loving, so nurturing. The moment I met her, I felt safe. I felt protected. I felt like even though she didn't know me, she had my back. And that she did. Oh, she made my labor and delivery so much more peaceful, so much more powerful, because she was constantly reassuring me. She took good care of me. The hospital I gave birth at, they were amazing. Like, I feel like I had such a beautiful birth experience considering I was at hospital. A lot of people have beautiful births at hospital, but just again, I have to reiterate, I wanted to give birth at home or birthing center. Birthing center was my plan at this point, or up until a few weeks before I gave birth. So with that being said, the environment is so important, because if you are going in planning on giving birth naturally with no epidural, no drugs, it's all mental. So yeah, my doula was there. I felt safe. I was happy. I was like, yes, she's here. She got my back. My baby, I think, is waking up. And during the actual labor process, my man was there supporting me. He was doing a lot of counter pressure for me, which you guys would see pictures and clips of that if you watch my labor and delivery vlog. But he was doing a lot of counter pressure for me because I did have a birthing class, so she taught me some things, and then she also ended up coming to my house and showing me some ways that my partner could be more supportive for me through labor. So really quickly, I'll give you guys my birth plan. This is what I gave to the hospital when I got there. It says, during labor, all natural pain relief measures to avoid epidural. Absolutely no episiotomy, which is cutting of the vagina tissues to help with the baby coming out. No vacuums, no forceps. These are things that I was just like, in my mind, I was like, absolutely not. So I needed to write this down to give me a peace of mind. Minimal cervix exams, which is when they check the vagina for dilation. They were pretty good at doing minimal, but they did still have to do it a couple of times. Dim lighting. So as far as my environment, I wanted it to be dim lighting, soft music, and as peaceful and calm environment as possible. These are things that I requested because I know that sometimes the hospital environment can be very like hectic. And I wrote this down, not that I was actually intending on having a lotus birth. My midwife told me to put down that I wanted a lotus birth because I did want to keep my placenta, and also because I wanted to keep the placenta attached to baby as long as possible. So that's what I put down here as well. And it says mom and dad assist in catching baby if possible. I actually was in the moment when it came time to it. I was not ready. Like whenever baby was already crowned, they asked me if I wanted to feel her head, and I was so in my mind at that point that I didn't want to. So I was just like, nope. And I put mom and dad assist with catching baby. My man, I don't know if he really wanted to, but I just wrote it down if possible, because this is what was going to happen at the birth center. So I wrote these things down just in case it was possible in the hospital setting. Certain things are not possible in the hospital setting. And I put perineal support during pushing, and they actually did do that as well, which was amazing. They asked me if I brought any oil with me. I brought some olive oil. They used warm compresses and put it in my perineum area to help support the tissues while I was pushing. Full mobility in labor in any position my body's natural instinct wants to move in. Squatting, semi-squatting, hands, knees, yoga ball, peanut ball, whatever. I wrote all of that down, and then I put a little note right here for my man. It says, note to Ray, remind me to keep my face calm when you see my face has tension. Like anytime I'm like, remind me to calm my face, because if you calm your face, it allows you to take deeper breaths. Once externally you become more calm, you become more calm internally as well. At least that was my experience, and that has been my experience. And then counter pressure during contractions. If you're interested in what counter pressure is, Google it and you'll see a bunch of videos, even YouTube counter pressure. And then I told him to give me reassurance. You can do this. You are strong. Your body was made for this. Just reminding me of these things while I was in labor, because that's all I felt like I really needed. I was doing a lot of research. I was doing practice breathing and things like that before I went into labor. But labor is one of those things that's so unpredictable, so unexpected. But if you prime yourself and mentally prepare yourself as much as possible before you go into labor, it makes a world of a difference from my experience. And then it says after birth, lotus birth, keep baby attached to umbilical cord, keep my placenta. Immediate skin to skin with mom and dad. So I wanted immediate skin to skin as soon as I gave birth. Immediate breastfeeding, breastfed, breast milk, bottle if needed. Like these are just things that I put, and I put yes to vitamin K shot because I didn't want to have to be making decisions in the moment, because I didn't know how quickly after giving birth that these things happen. So I just wrote it down. And then in case of emergency, like if I had to for whatever reason have a C-section, I want my partner, my doula, and my midwife to be in the room with me. That's it. If for some reason my baby needed to go to the NICU, only me and my man are authorized in the unit to see the baby. That's it. Nobody else. It was not likely that anybody else would be in the room, but I still wanted to make sure that I stated that, so it was clear, crystal clear. And what I did love, like once I was in the labor and delivery room, they respected my birth plan. The main nurse that was on duty, she ended up coming back in the room with like this celestial lighting. Maybe I'll put a clip right here so you guys can see what the lighting ambiance situation that she created for me. Beautiful. All I can describe it as like celestial, outer space, peaceful vibes. She came back in the room with that light set up for me. She also told me that I could have set up Bluetooth to play music if that's what I wanted to do. I didn't end up setting the Bluetooth. We just ended up playing music off the phone, and we set the phone on a table, so the table kind of like created this. It was just loud. It felt like it was like in the entire room. So it was a vibe, okay? I'm trying to figure if my baby woke up right now, because I keep seeing little movements, but she is an active sleeper. But yes, so they respected my birth plan in that sense. They immediately came to create that vibe for me. And then the doctor that was on shift, she came in the room and literally sat down with a copy of my birth plan and went over everything with me, let me know what they could and could not do based on their policy. And something that I learned now is like policy is not necessarily law. So some things you can kind of advocate for yourself. That's the word I was looking for. You can kind of advocate for yourself when it comes to what's the law and what their policies are or what they recommend. So in the moment when you're in labor, it's hard to make those decisions. But they did come in and talk to me about this. They let me know that they do not do lotus births at this particular hospital, but I've heard some hospitals actually do. So I was just like, I did get to keep my placenta. I was able to move around easily because they ended up putting a baby monitor on me that was cordless, wireless. Maybe I'll put a picture of that wireless monitor right here, which I loved that because I was able to labor on the toilet, standing up in a squatting position. They accommodated every single thing that I needed. And then my doula, she was just amazing throughout the entire birth experience. Like what I can say from birth, have a supportive team, because I don't really have a big support system family-wise, but for this particular experience, I was so grateful to be able to have my doula and have my partner there. Without them, I don't know if it would have been possible for me to have the experience that I did, because my partner literally did not leave my side. The entire time I was in labor, he was right there by my side. The only time he ever stepped away is if he needed to grab me some chapstick, dip a towel in some cool water to put on my head because I was sweating like crazy, to step away to give me water, and to use the bathroom one time the entire time I was in labor. He did not leave my side. So, and then my doula, like the baby's crying, let me go get her. It honestly seems like she wants to go back to sleep. I just went to go check on her and she closed her eyes again. So we'll see. Anyway, so my doula, she was amazing. amazing throughout the entire experience. She was very supportive. She was like breathing with me through my contractions. She was rubbing my hair, rubbing my feet, rubbing my head, bringing me water, putting ice packs on my forehead to keep me cool. Her and my man, they were like tag teaming, doing what they needed to do to get this baby here. But there was a moment when I was in labor. I cannot tell you when, but she was just very comforting. She felt like a mother. It felt like the closest thing to having my mom there. Like, it was just, okay, maybe she does want to wake up. I'm gonna go get her. Yeah. Hey girl, you just woke up from your nappy poo? Yeah. Oh, you got milkies dried up on your face. Did you have a good nap? You don't want me to get it? You want me to just leave it? I'm hot because I have the AC off and the fan off. I just thought about it. Now that her door is open, you can probably hear that sound in the background. Let me go close the door. Where are you going? I'm watching you. Got my eye on you, and so does the camera. So like I was saying, there was a moment when I was in labor. In this moment, I closed my eyes and everything in the room disappeared. The room got quiet. I didn't hear the sounds in the background. I didn't hear the monitors. I literally heard nothing. And all I could see was like this orange color, bright orange color. It was like glowing with yellow around it. And then my mom, her face, yeah, her face appeared clear as day. Like, it's like she was right in front of me. And after that, I remember like this deep feeling of comfort and like peace came over me. And in that moment, I was just like, all right, I could do this. I got this. I'm good. She's here. I felt like I got like this big, my soul got a big deep hug. Like my little inner child got a big hug. And that kind of helped heal me for the moment, because there's another thing. I know I'm all over the place, but I hope that you guys are following me, and I hope that this is enjoyable, me sharing this with you. Something that my doula, doula told me that happens to a lot of women in labor is that a lot of trauma surfaces, like a lot of like old memories will surface. So it was important for me to release a lot of that energy before I went into labor. And I needed to hear that, because for a while what I was doing was I was really focused on like what I didn't have. Like, I was sad that I didn't have like family, and I didn't have support, and I didn't have my mommy, and like his family isn't really around, you know. I was really sad about that. So I was constantly thinking about that. And whenever I would think about my mom, I would try to push those emotions away instead of allowing myself to feel it, because I didn't want to cry, because I kept feeling like, oh, you're not supposed to stress yourself out. Like, you're pregnant. The last thing you want to do is stress yourself out. When you cry, when you're stressed, your baby feels it. So I was trying to push those emotions away. And once I told her I was doing that, she was like, no, baby, you need to let that go. You need to release it. Cry, journal about it, let it go. So whenever you go into labor and those emotions surface, you'll be able to like pass it. Because she said sometimes what happens is when those traumas and those emotions surface when you're in labor, it kind of stalls your labor. So I felt like in this moment, like when I seen her vivid as clear as day, after that I was like, all right, I got this, I could do this. I was pretty quiet during labor too. A lot of the contractions came and I was just breathing through them. I was just like, that's how I was like coping with a lot of my the labor pains. And I remember the only moment that I felt like it was like intense, I remember they came in to do a cervix check and they told me I was 6 centimeters darling. I was like, that's it, dang. But during that contraction, my doula was right there. She was holding my hand and I was just like, ooh. I was like, that one's a lot. She was like, this one hurts. She was like, it's okay. She was like, you got it. Ooh, just breathing with me. And like something about her breathing with me was so empowering. She's amazing at what she does, man. Amazing. Like, yeah. Then they came back. They wanted to come back in and check on me and see what's going on. They were like, is it okay if we do another cervix check? I wanted to tell them no, but I'm just like, look, they got to do what they got to do to get baby here. So they checked again and she was like, okay, it's almost time for you to push. I was just like, huh? She was like, yeah, you're 10 centimeters early. I was like, huh? So I went from 6 to 10 all in one, because that, when I'm telling you that was intense, it was intense. But yeah, so they ended up coming in and like that's when it got serious. Everybody was coming in the room. It was time for me to push. The one thing I really wish that I would have advocated more for myself was like being able to film the footage of me pushing baby out, because they ended up telling me that I was not allowed to film that part, the actual pushing part. Like I could take still photos but not videos, and I was just like, in the moment I was just like, okay, whatever. But afterwards I was like, man, I wish I would have got that footage. For me, I feel like that was the one thing that I really wish I could have changed, was just to have the clip. She's here now. Does anything even matter? Like any of the things that I wish I could have changed or wish would have been different. In a perfect world, I would have gave birth at the birthing center. So it, like a lot of the stuff that was important to me then is not important anymore. It's like my baby's here, my little blessing is here. You know, I feel like I had a very peaceful, beautiful experience. I'm probably leaving some stuff out because I feel like I can go on and on and on about that experience, but I was able to give birth naturally. I got completely dilated to 10 naturally, no epidural, no nothing. And then when I was 10 centimeters dilated, that's what I didn't want to forget to leave out. So they had me start pushing. I think it was like around maybe 4 o'clock, like 4 p.m. they had me start pushing. What is it? What you want, mama? What you want, mama? You want this? Actually, let me make sure you don't need your diaper changed, because you was just taking a nap. There's no poo in there. There's no poo in there, mama. But yeah, they had me start pushing, but she was struggling to get past my pelvic area, bone area. So they did one more check. I hate the cervix checks. I hate the cervix check. But they did another check and it was like, there was like some swelling going on. So I had to stop pushing. They told me 20 minutes. I think that was like a mental thing. They were like, oh, are you okay with stopping pushing for about 20 to 30 minutes to give things time to, like, you know, for the swelling to go down? And I was just like, okay, fine. So about an hour later, they came back and that's when we start pushing. I don't remember how long I was pushing for at that point. It didn't feel very long. Like, honestly, like that pushing, it didn't feel very long at all. The actual pushing her out, like as far as like the ring of fire and things like that, like I was not falling into that trap of like ring of fire, it's gonna feel so bad. I just, like, before it came, I was just like, it's not gonna burn. It doesn't burn. It's not gonna burn. So when it actually did come, it didn't feel as bad as what I imagined it being, because when I'm telling you, I've seen some crazy labor videos or labor and delivery videos where I'm just like, but I also watch a lot of peaceful ones. And those are the ones that I kind of leaned on to help me feel like I could do this, you know? So before we wrap this video up, oh, I keep forgetting stuff because I swear now that she's up, my mind is everywhere. So once I was 10 centimeters dilated, because my contractions started to get further and further apart, they were 7 minutes apart, and they were like, there are other options for you. We can give you Pitocin, which Pitocin induces contractions. They were like, we can give you Pitocin to help speed up your contractions, to help get them closer together. And I really didn't want it at first, but then they didn't let me know that after I give birth, they were gonna give me Pitocin anyways to help contract my uterus down faster, to reduce the chance of bleeding, postpartum hemorrhaging. So that's when I had to make the decision, like, well, I'm gonna get Pitocin anyways. I already dilated to 10 on my own. I did it. Should I get this Pitocin so she can get here, or do I keep waiting? I was ready for her to be out at this point because there was so much pressure going on. Well, are you hungry again? She probably is hungry. Am I able to lean this up a little bit and just feed her? Because if I'm feeding her, then she'll be happier. I want you to be happier. Yep, she's hungry. Baby girl is hungry. Here you go. Yummy, huh? She'd be so happy when she's eating. But yeah, so once she was born, like immediately after she was born, we did skin to skin. The first thing I said whenever I looked at her, because I envisioned myself saying this once she was finally here, was, we did it, baby. We did it. And I was just staring at her like, wow, you're here. I didn't cry. You know how a lot of people when they give birth, they start crying hysterically? I did not cry. I was just staring at her like, wow, we did it, baby. We did it. I didn't really cry about her existence until a couple weeks after she was born, when I was just like, oh my God, I'm a mother. You're actually here. We did this. Like, whoa. Because I was on a natural high. Like after giving birth, I was like, literally, I felt like I was on some good ganja, okay? Not literally, but almost like that. Like, I swear it felt like, it just felt like I was having an outer body experience, you know? For like 2 days, I definitely was on a high. I remember I talked to my cousin and she was just like, you're so peaceful. You just seem so at peace. And she had told me about one of her friends that gave birth. She said after her friend gave birth, she looked like she went through a war, but she was like, you just look so peaceful. And I was like, I was just, I was so happy. I feel so blessed. You guys don't see the crying and the stress that I go through, but overall, I feel blessed to have my little baby. And we did breastfeeding right away. So that's a blessing as well, that she didn't have any issues with latching. Still going strong, 5 months, we're still going strong with breastfeeding. But overall, the experience was so beautiful and so peaceful. And then just to give you guys a little bit of perspective, I ended up going to a postpartum group, and that gave me a lot more perspective, because at the postpartum group, we talk about our birth experience. As an introduction, we talk about our birth experience really quickly. So for me, I told you guys what my experience was. Then there was another lady there that she ended up having a water birth at a birthing center, but her recovery was really hard. She ended up having a postpartum hemorrhaging, and she was still like dealing with issues from that 4.5 months postpartum. And then there's another woman that ended up having to have a C-section. So I just wanted to shed some light by sharing my experience and just encouraging you to surrender to whatever is happening in the moment, because fear is not going to help you get your baby here any sooner. Like, I'm not saying it's not scary, but each moment to moment, just try your best to surrender to whatever it is that comes, because you cannot predict exactly what's going to happen when you are in labor. Like how I had to get the Pitocin and I didn't want to originally, but I did what I had to do to get her here. And yeah, so the last thing that I want to cover in this video video is how I prep for my birth. I actually have a list of that in my phone, but since I'm feeding, I'm not gonna be able to see it. So I'm gonna try to remember in my head, and if I do not mention everything, I'm gonna put a picture. It's a picture of my dry erase board that I had on my wall the weeks leading up to me going into labor or giving birth. So I was doing prenatal yoga, of course, drinking a lot of water, going on walks, perineal massages, which Google what that is. You're massaging the vaginal tissues to help with the elasticity of your vagina when you have to give birth. That, I was also eating dates. I was taking evening primrose oil orally and doing like a vaginal suppository. Oh, I had just did one of those before my water break too. Like I had just put one of those primrose oil tablets in right before my water broke. That I forgot to mention. I really can't think of everything right now. Of course, I was continuing to take my prenatal supplements. I really can't think, so it's gonna be on the screen for you guys. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about my experience, any other questions, please comment them down below. Subscribe to my channel if you are new. Turn on your post notifications so you guys will be notified every time I upload a new video. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that me sharing my birth experience, a positive birth experience, can help shed some light on something that can be very scary and helps to encourage you. You got this. No matter what happens, no matter how your birth goes, if you end up having to have a C-section, if you end up having your natural birth, if you get your epidural, whatever you need to do, surrender to it moment to moment and make decisions based on what feels best in the moment. Have your plan, but don't feel like you let yourself down, or don't beat yourself up about how things turn out. Once your baby is here, none of that even matters. I hope that if you are watching this because you are going to be going into labor soon, that you have a safe and happy and healthy delivery. Well, I can't say happy because it is what it is, but I just hope that you can honor your experience no matter what it is. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you. I'm sending you so much love and positivity and peace during this time, because whoo girl, I know that it ain't easy. And just don't feel defeated no matter what your experience is. If you want to breastfeed, don't give up, keep trying. You have options, you know, ask about lactation consultants at the hospital, because there was a couple of lactation consultants that did come in. All the nurses were very helpful. Ask questions. But yeah, that's it. I have nothing else. Baby's pulling my hair. She's at her grabbing stage right now. You done? Y'all done? You happy? You happy now? But yeah, y'all, when I tell you it's hot, it's hot. Because I don't have the AC or the fan on. Like, it's cooling down now. I think it's like 70 something, maybe 80 degrees today. But yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I know I'm still here. This video is probably gonna be so long. I don't know how long it's gonna take me to edit it. You just said I had a good nap. I had my milkies. But however your experience goes, stay encouraged and know that you're doing an amazing job. If you end up having to formula feed, don't feel guilty for that. A fed baby is what's most important. So yeah, thank you for watching. I appreciate you. I'm sending you love, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, you guys. Say bye, pumpkin. Bye. You're so cute. My baby. Y'all think she looks like me? What y'all think? Do y'all think she looks like me? Because I swear she looks like her daddy. Bye, you guys.